A lot of times when people will reach out to me asking if I want to buy their stuff, a lot of times it's no. They'll have 500 cards, but they're like, hey, I'm looking to get $1 to $5 per card. And I just reply back like, yeah, me too.
Welcome to the Hobby Handbook, your weekly dose of news, deals, and data from the world of sports cards. Hosted by Alex, aka Clever Cuban Cards. New episodes every Thursday. Look for more Clever Cuban Cards content over on TikTok and YouTube. Check us out live on Whatnot every Sunday and Wednesday.
All right, so welcome back to another episode of the Hobby Handbook. Today should be a fun one. We've got another Alex coming on the show. You're going to have to wait to see kind of more info on that. We're going to be talking about the low-end card market and using AI to help you figure out how to list more cards and sell more cards. But before that, I feel like there are a couple things that I want to talk on. First, we have to talk about the PSA or collector's acquisition of BGS. Been getting a lot of people. I made a little reaction video when it first came out, and I want to talk a little bit more in depth here right now about that. I don't love it. I think unsurprisingly, that's the sentiment that I feel like a lot of people have, and I think that the reason why that sentiment is there is because it's just more consolidation within the sports card world, the grading world, etc. The fact that now Collectors owns PSA, SGC, and BGS, arguably the three most well-known grading companies in the sports card world, it's tough. It's creating the the illusion of competition, when in all reality, no matter who you're grading with any of these companies, they are the same. You're giving your money to the same person. It's the same resources, result, etc. And I think that, a lot of people are upset because I think that people had hoped that that BGS was going to be able to get back to its former glory days and maybe truly challenge PSA one day. And PSA may have been worried about that, which is why they went and bought BGS. Collectors saw SGC gaining steam. And so what did they do? They bought SGC. They say, okay, well, who's the most likely to come up and challenge us? I'd say the most likely options right now, you really only would have been BGS or CGC. And well, BGS, now they own them. So now it's CGC and people say Tag or Degree or Arena Club. None of those have nearly the same level of grading foundation that the big three have. And so the fact that they're all owned by Collectors now is really, really interesting and really, I'll be curious to see what long-term it looks like. I was watching Mike's break of Cosmic this morning and talking about I hope that they continue to, help them grow and get back to their old glory days and let them operate as an independent brand. And I'm like, I hope so too. I can be optimistic, but I'm not hopeful. I think it's probably another SGC situation where they're going to have them be used for certain things and the rest it's, come grade your cards with PSA. And I think that my biggest takeaway, we were talking about this on stream the other night, if you talk to anybody in the hobby right now, I'd say at least 80, if not 90% of people, they would say that this consolidation is not a good thing. They would say that PSA probably doesn't have the most accurate grading. PSA has the best brand because of the market value, but are they the most accurate? People pretty overwhelmingly are not saying that. People say that they want a competitor PSA. We talk the talk that we want somebody to come out here and compete with PSA so that there is competition and there are different options, because without competition, they just get to set the market. That's the challenge with a monopoly, is that when there is no competition, there is no price challenge. PSA can keep raising prices and it's like, well, where else are you going to grade your cards? We like to talk the talk and say somebody else needs to be relevant other than PSA. Yet we as a hobby refuse to walk the walk. We refuse to go buy cards that are graded by Arena Club or Tag or any of these other companies. And so the challenge that I have to you, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, but I'm really reiterating this now that Collectors owns PSA, SGC, and BGS. Don't be afraid to spend money on a slab that isn't one of those big three. I believe, and one of the things that I want to be consistent on is I will not send my cards to get graded with a company that is not big enough to have a presence at the National. If you are not big enough, if you cannot get yourself a tiny corporate booth at the biggest networking business show of the year for the industry that you're in, why would I trust you to send incredibly expensive cards to? But there are companies that show up every year. CGC. I know Tag wasn't at this past year's National, but the previous two they were at. Don't be afraid to go grade your cards at CGC. Don't be afraid to buy your cards. Don't be afraid to, if you see a dealer that has CGC slabs, don't be afraid to buy them. Because the only way that there is going to be competition is if we collectively say we are willing to spend money on something else. You will hear people, myself included, and I will throw myself under the bus here, complain about PSA 10s, yet go and pretty exclusively buy PSA slabs. We need to walk the walk if we're going to talk the talk. So let's do that. I'm going to challenge myself in 2026 to do that, and I'm going to challenge you in 2026 to do that. The next little thing that I want to talk about was it is a massive release week. Today, Wednesday, when we're recording this episode, is the release of Cosmic Chrome. Been watching a few breaks here and there, trying to keep myself not too familiar because I want to have fun with our rip and flip tonight. I'll have a whole video about how profitable that case hopefully ends up being. Our case of Chrome update was not great, so I'm hoping that Topps held out our hits for Cosmic. And then tomorrow on Thursday is, Topps Chrome Basketball, which is a massive release. I've seen a lot of that get ripped with the first day issue boxes, but that's coming out later this week as well. I am a little disappointed. They delayed Black and White and did not communicate that at all. It was supposed to come out tomorrow on the 18th as well. It now looks like it's coming out on the 23rd, which is disappointing. I wish the Topps would have communicated that, but, so be it. Nothing new about it. It'll, I like that it's spreading things out, at least on my end a little bit, because it was tough to do a rip and flip tonight on Wednesday for Cosmic and then say, hey, customers who just spent a bunch of money on Cosmic, come spend some more money on Black and White the next night. So I don't hate that it's a little delayed, but it does complicate things for me a little bit because I'm traveling. We're still going to have it. I'm going to have the boxes shipped to where we're going to be in Florida, so hopefully that'll be fine. But just interesting that they didn't communicate that it was delayed because normally I feel like Topps does a decent job about that. So enough of that. Let's jump on over to our guest. All right, so want to welcome Alex to the show, aka BiggzyRips. First off, great name, Alex. We've had a couple of guests named Alex, so it's a good name. We like to see it in the hobby. For all of the people that are listening, though, quick intro. Who are you? Kind of give them a quick explanation of the content that you make, where they can find you, etc.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Alex. Go by BiggzyRips on all platforms. So TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. And I make videos about selling cheap sports cards. And when I say cheap sports cards, I'm talking about like $2. Like we sell $2 cards where I'm at. And a lot of the content I make is just kind of the behind the scenes of what that looks like, kind of what the books are on it, and the grind that it really is. I feel like a lot of people really appreciate it because most people don't think it's really worth it. But at the end of the day, if you kind of stick with it, it adds up. So I think a lot of people appreciate and respect kind of the grind behind it.
Yeah, it absolutely is a grind, and you've been making some content about the new Ricoh Scanner that you got, which I want to talk a little bit about. But I want to start off with, you mentioned your selling of low-end cards. It's something that we have in common. I think that most people would look at it and say that we both sell really low-end cards. I think that you are slightly below low-end for me. Like, I think that I know you've got a whole series, base to bangers. Like, you will sell base cards. I don't really do much base, but, still low-end cards. Mm-hmm. What is it that drew you to selling cheaper cards, especially as somebody who makes content? Like, you are somebody who, in the content space and sphere, so many people like to flex the big, expensive cards and kind of play that game. What drew you to lower end cards?
To be completely honest, a lot of people just don't have thousands of dollars to throw into cards. That's kind of where I started. I didn't have a lot of money to throw into cards to begin with, but I had $5 here, $10 there, $3 here. And I feel like a lot of other people just kind of relate to that. So that's kind of what I wanted to deal in a little bit. I can go to a show and I can, spend $1,000 on a card if I wanted to. But in reality, with what I've been doing, it's a lot easier for me to move those $3, $4, $5 cards as opposed to, the $500, $600, $700 cards. So that's kind of part of it too. One thing also too that kind of motivated me to do this a little bit. You've probably seen them around, especially when we see each other at shows, but I do this with my dad a lot too. Mm-hmm. And my dad is actually a sales manager for a company called BSN Sports. So he's over kind of a lot of reps, and he tells them all the time, like, it's not, they work on commission. It's nice to have those big commission sales and stuff like that, but you pay the bills with your little stuff. So the more volume you move with the little stuff, the more it adds up. And so it's nice to have the big sale every once in a while, but also at the same time, I can move 1,000 $2 cards and make the same as I would make if I sold one $2,000 card. So that's kind of the mindset I have behind it.
Yeah, totally agree. It's, I have my occasional big expensive cards that I get, but like I was talking, I think it was on the ball card show a few weeks ago about like, I think I had less than 10 cards that are worth $1,000 or more, despite the fact that people might think like, oh, you're a big influencer, you've got all this and that. I play the low end game as well. One of the challenges that I feel like you have with the low end game though is when you're playing with high end cards. I'm looking right now, I have my setup for, my streams and this and that, like a Superfractor 101. There is one of those. Right. If somebody wants that card, they have to come and buy it from me. On lower end cards, you're more almost exclusively dealing with base cards, more common parallels, more like higher numbered cards, not low numbered cards, etc. And so you aren't necessarily able to like benefit from like scarcity. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out ways that you are able to stand out. Is there anything that you feel like helps you or tips that you would have that would help people stand out when they're trying to list these cards that maybe are more common? Because if you're listing an Ellie De La Cruz Topps Chrome Rookie card, it might do $3-4, but there's going to be 3,000 of them on eBay. How do you get people to buy your card?
Well, you can kind of attest to this a little bit. It does help having a little bit of a social media following, but even for people that don't have them, you can really use the platforms that you're selling on to your advantage. So like I'll use eBay, for example. If you've got an eBay store, that helps quite a bit. You can do a little bit of promotion. I like to promote a lot of stuff at 2%. Take really good pictures and make really good listings, and having a scanner helps with that. And then also utilizing kind of the AI software to do that. And then SEO is kind of really important as well. Something popped up on Twitter the other day that I noticed that I thought was really cool, and I didn't really think about it, but it makes a lot of sense. Like we'll use the Ellie De La Cruz, for example. Like you and I might go on eBay and look for 2024 Topps Chrome Ellie De La Cruz, and we know what we're looking for because we deal with it a lot. But somebody who's maybe not buying cards as often as we are, they might go on eBay and look up Ellie De La Cruz rookie. Mm-hmm. So having that in your listing whenever you're doing your listings helps a lot. Search engine optimization is really, really important with that. But yeah, like I said, just utilizing the benefits from your platforms. If you get that top rated seller badge on eBay, it helps push out your stuff a lot more. If you're selling on Collects, if you have Collects Pro, that helps push out your listings a little bit more. When you're selling on Whatnot, build rapport with your room, have people come back, and just as well as I do, if people like you, they'll buy your stuff. So building relationships helps a lot as well. So people know I sell cheap stuff. If they want to come up here and they're looking for something really cheap, something cool to buy, they'll get it from me because they like me.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I think that's a huge aspect, and I give the tip to everybody of, even if you are not necessarily interested in being a content creator and, making content, having some semblance of a brand is really, really important, because people will then start to associate, and if they get to know you, going to local shows, you don't have to be an online brand. You can be an in-person brand, but having people get to know you can make that big difference, that they say, okay, I trust Alex. I'm wanting to buy from him, I want to support from him, or I know that he does good business. I know that he's going to be easy to negotiate with. There are plenty of dealers who have no online presence, but I go to them every single time that I go to a show because I know that they are good to work with. We've built that relationship and that rapport. I also think that your call out of finding ways to basically utilize the algorithms that these selling sites have to help your card move is super, super important. I think a lot of people always have that question. I get it. Do you promote your listings? If I'm listing on eBay, every single listing that I make is promoted because I would rather pay a 2% additional fee. And I know that's going to get you up about 15%, which is rough, but I'd rather pay 2% and get a higher likelihood that somebody's going to actually see my listing and see my card than say, oh no, I'm going to hold out for 13.25% instead of 15% and let it sit for months and months and months. So I think that those are all great things. Now, you kind of talked about like the building those relationships, finding those cards. How do you source your inventory? You know, low end is your profit margin can be great. If you go to a dollar box and you find a card that you can sell for $5, that's amazing. Like that's basically you scale that. That's $100 card that you sell for $500. That's a massive win. But it takes significant volume to see that real growth. How do you approach sourcing cards in volume?
Right. So kind of what I'm looking at right now, I try to source specifically for Whatnot. So if I go to a show, I don't care to pay up a little bit just because I respect the fact that the people who are set up at the show, I don't care to pay $1 for a chrome refractor at a show. But if I'm going to source from like people reach out to me all the time asking if I want to buy their stuff, I won't pay that high on it just because I know how much of a grind it is. But a lot of times I'll try to source my really good stuff at shows, hitting those dollar boxes. And then a lot of times what I've been doing recently is I've been buying lots from people online, and I'll just be like, hey, I'm looking for color lots. And I'm typically paying around like $150 to $175 for like 450 to 500 cards. And I'm kind of looking for people, and I've built up some relationships with like people who rip a lot or breakers who, they'll send off their hits, but then they'll keep kind of their cheap stuff and they don't want to deal with it. So they're just like, hey, I'll give it to you for, like I said, 500 cards for $175. It's all color or some type of rookie. And then what I will do with those is I'll split them up and I'll take the best stuff to list on or to run on Whatnot, and then everything else I'll run it through the scanner and list it on eBay and collects. Then basically what I'm making off of Whatnot, I'll reinvest the Whatnot money, and then what I'm making off of the other stuff on eBay and collects, I'll reinvest that into individual cards. Got
it. Makes sense. And I think that your point of the, not paying that super, super strong on it because of the grind, I think that is, though, where the low-end game, to me, is the best place to kind of operate from a market perspective and looking for profitability. Yes, you are going to have to put in a grind, but you can get stuff at such a better percent in margin because you are able to say like, hey, I'm going to put in the work to sell $500 cards. You quite literally are not going to do that. To the person that is ripping, that has tons and tons of dollar cards in their closet and has a full-time job and a family and all this and that, they are not going to list those cards online. It's not going to happen. And yeah, they're going to take their higher-end, bigger hits and they're going to either list them themselves, send them off to a consignment, go to a card show, etc. But the cheap stuff, I don't want to say nobody wants that, but a lot of people don't want it because a lot of people don't want to do the work. And if you're willing to put in the work, that can unlock some serious profits.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of times, I hate to say this because a lot of times when people will reach out to me asking if I want to buy their stuff, a lot of times it's no, because they'll have 500 cards, but they're like, hey, I'm looking to get like $1 to $5 per card. And I just reply back like, yeah, me too. So I can't pay what you want for them. If you want that, you need to list it. So a lot of people, but they don't want to do that. So then they just, I make people mad sometimes when I tell them, hey, I'll pay you 30 cents per card. But in reality, that's what I need to pay for it to be worth it for me. If you want that $1, if you want that $3 per card, you need to list it yourself.
Yep. Yeah, you got to, a lot of people, and that's a super easy line to determine whether or not it's somebody that I'm going to, do business with, is If they're looking for 100%, I say, your cards are worth that. We're not going to argue that they do not have that potential value, but you can't take 100% of the profit for 0% of the work. And I think that a lot of people would like that. I mean, I would like it. Don't get me wrong. That would be nice, but that's not the reality of the world that we live in. Honestly, what I feel like I end up doing a lot to kind of help bridge that gap is to kind of take a like middle approach. Basically, what I say to people is I say, listen, there's going to be stuff that you're going to send me that I do not want, that I'm not going to realistically sell. And then there's going to be stuff that I will want to sell. So we can go one of two routes. I can either pay a cheap rate for the entire lot. I can, give you that 50 cents a card or whatever. Or, and a lot of people will do this with me because ultimately, they look at me and they say, okay, you've got 70,000 followers on TikTok. You've got the podcast, you've got the partnerships. Like, you are a known quantity and entity in the hobby. You are not going to risk all of the things that you have for my $1,000 worth of cards. But so given that they have that level of trust, and granted, that's great, that's one of the perks of having a brand, but given that they have that level of trust, they will send me the cards, and then I can sort through those and say, okay, you know what? You have 200 cards here that I see that I will realistically put into a Whatnot stream. Those are high quality cards that I would have expected found in a, $1, $2, $3 bin. I will pay you $2 a card for these. That's fine. I will pay you a good rate on those. Then I pull out the stuff that say like, hey, this stuff is worth, 15 plus. I'm going to pay you a percent comp on that because that is worth the percent. And then the stuff that I'm not going to sell, I'll still pay you a little bit, but I'm going to give you 20 cents a card because that's just going to be giveaways and freebies and things that realistically I'm not going to sell. And that to me has been a way to help kind of bridge that. They don't want to sell it for, pennies, but they do want to get rid of it all. And I at the end of the day, I want it because the volume that I have to operate in, I need those lots coming in.
Right. So
you can kind of find the different ways to go about it, but at the end of the day, they have to be okay with knowing that they're leaving some money on the table.
Exactly. Yeah. And kind of what you're saying too, it doesn't really, it matters a little bit, the direction you take with it, but at the end of the day, it all kind of averages out anyway, depending on whichever way you go to. So you're still paying about the same, whether you pay strong for the best stuff and then they throw in the other stuff versus where you are paying even across the board.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, you source all these cards, you get all these low-end cards, and I know that the big change and big investment that you've made is you just recently bought the Ricoh Scanner, which is like a $800, $1,000 scanner. I know that's a big investment. Right. I'm really enjoying the content on it because it's something that I have debated doing. Honestly, if I could find a way to use it to automate my listings for like my live streams, I would buy it yesterday.
I think it does do that, to be honest with you.
We'll have to talk
I've thought about doing it with my own stuff. I just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah. If you figure it out, let me know because that, to me, that's the big thing that I need to unlock. Like right now, I am manually typing in all 200 listings, and then I'm taking a picture with my phone for the pictures, which like the picture is not that slow. Like it probably takes me 20 minutes to take 200 pictures. It's not that bad, but And I have slabs as well, so like I know that it doesn't scan slabs, which if Ricoh or somebody can figure out how to also scan slabs at a fast speed, I would buy that yesterday and a half.
Yeah, most people who use slabs, who use the scanner,
flatbed.
They do the flatbed.
Yeah. But with the scanner, you have been previously listing low value stuff on eBay, and you've been kind of doing those bulk listings manually. How much faster do you think that listing like 50 cards is? Like for me, when I list a card, it takes about a minute. So I would say that 50 cards would probably take me about an hour to list. Right. How long does it take you to list, 50 cards with the scanner?
50. I can do 50 to 100 cards anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes.
Awesome. So
pretty. It's significantly. Honestly, the thing that takes the longest is I send everything through with a penny sleeve. You can do top loaders, but I don't really recommend it, and you can also do them raw. But the best way I've found it is to do penny sleeves. So that's typically the longest what takes the longest in the whole process is either putting cards in penny sleeves or taking them out of top loaders to scan.
Yeah.
But in terms of like actually scanning them and getting them uploaded, I can do 50 to 100 cards in 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's huge. Huge. Like, and if you are playing this game and trying to sell a lot of low end cards, it's that 30 minutes of savings. You are able to double, if not triple, your output in terms of listings, which on the low end game, you're going to have a lot of stuff that's going to sit for a long time. Getting up more listings and feeding that algorithm, because if you consistently list stuff to eBay, eBay's going to say, hey, we want to continue to incentivize him to list stuff on eBay.
Exactly.
So you're feeding the algorithm, but also you're keeping your inventory fresh and keeping things like that. Now, you've been doing these low-end cards for a while. This has always been your thing. How long did you think about buying the scanner before you like finally pulled the trigger?
Had I not made the jump to Whatnot in April, I would have done it a lot sooner.
Okay.
Because I was kind of modeling what I was trying to do after, I don't know if you follow him on YouTube. His name's 1 Million Cubs. The guy's name is Bo. And he had a basically high volume, low end liquid eBay store. He had like 50 to 60,000 listings. He's since jumped to eBay Live, but I was kind of modeling the store after him, and I was trying to get up to 5-figure listings at minimum. And I was doing that manually at first. And the plan to get the scanner was kind of always there, up until the point where I started doing Whatnot, and I was moving like 200 cards a show at Whatnot. So I kind of took a back seat a little bit with eBay once I started doing that. But then I realized keeping up quality inventory for Whatnot is not super easy. It's not easy. So I still to this day go a couple weeks at a time without being able to do shows. So not being able to have shows consistently on Whatnot is kind of what made me turn back to it. So I wanted to get it and just have stuff up to give myself a chance to move stuff while I'm in between Whatnot shows. So that's kind of what led to it today.
Yeah. I feel like there's been so many different examples in my life, both in terms of like the business, but also just like in general, of like those big purchases that you're like, I feel like I should do this, but like it's a lot to invest in, it's a lot to do. And then you do it and you're like, damn, why didn't I do this sooner?
Exactly.
Like last night we're leaving for Christmas soon, and my wife got me, it's really a family gift, but she got me I do all of the dishes. Our baby doesn't do any breastfeeding, she does bottles. And she got me an automatic bottle washer. And I'm like, I have done like 6 to 8 bottles every single day for the last 8 months. Yep. Why did we, like, it was $300. Why did we not buy this sooner? To the point of the spending an hour to list 50 cards to now you can do it in 10, 15 minutes. Why did I not do this sooner?
Exactly.
It's such a big, scary step to take. And as somebody with anxiety who questions myself all the time, I like know it and understand why I hesitate on some of these things. But sometimes I'm like, dang, why didn't I just do that sooner?
Yeah, I still do the same thing. Like part of me wants to make a little bit of a jump into more expensive cards, but at the same time, I know the small stuff works for me, and I just have like the anxiety of just putting in more money into the more expensive cards. Like the concept's the same thing. You're just putting a little bit more money into it, but I have so much anxiety about having the extra money into the more expensive stuff. So that's kind of why I stick with the low end.
Yeah. Well, and with the one of my things that I say a lot too is that with the more expensive stuff, you have a lot more to lose from a like percentage perspective. That like if I buy a $10 card and it loses 50% of its value because the player gets hurt, I lost $5.
Exactly.
Okay. If you buy a $1,000 card and it loses 50% of its value, I just lost $500. That is a much harder pill to swallow, especially for somebody. And I think a lot of the people that listen to, this podcast, that watch my content, that I'm sure watch your content, they aren't the people that are, have these endless bankrolls. It's the, I've got $800 in my hobby account that I can use to go buy inventory. So losing $500, it's massive. That's a huge setback. So I think the low end stuff is really, really great. With low end, though, you do, to the point of you saying, keeping up with that inventory. We talked about sourcing a lot of inventory. There's also a lot of you mentioned that you want to have like 5 figures worth of cards listed on eBay. That becomes, as somebody with ADHD whose office is constantly chaotic, I don't even have that many cards listed on eBay that often. And I can tell you the number of times that a card sells and I'm like, crap, where did I put that thing? What do you plan for from a like organizational inventory management perspective for all of these cards that you're doing? Because you need to find a way to make it so that like when this card sells, you can very easily go find it. Because it's the worst when you sell a card and then you have to cancel the order because you lost the card.
Exactly. Yeah. The cool thing about Card Dealer Pro, which is the AI software that I'm using, is when you create a batch of cards that you scan in, you can put a SKU number with the batch. So whenever I go in to make a batch, typically what I'll do with the SKU number is I'll make the SKU number the date of which I upload the batch. And then once those cards get scanned, I'll put them in maybe a team bag or put them in some type of spot. And then I'll put the SKU number on top of the bag. And so that way when a card sells on eBay or collects, one or the other, that SKU number pops up for that specific card. So this is SKU 121725. And then I can go to that 121725 bag and that card's in that bag. And I like doing the date because it's always going to change. So I can go 12/17/25 today, 12/18/25 tomorrow, and then just keep putting those bags right behind each other. So that way, whenever a card sells and that 12/17/25 comes up, I can just go to that bag, pull that card out, and it makes it pretty simple.
Love it. Super smart. You're going to need some more of those industrial shelves that you get from the TikTok shop. So I'm sure that you'll get some of those samples in.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned Card Dealer Pro. Why did you choose Card Dealer Pro over some of the other there are other softwares like Chronosio, Haystack, etc. What was the allure? Why do you feel like Card Dealer Pro is the best one?
A couple different things. Like I said, I try to model my business after that other content creator, and that's what he uses. And then I've made connections with other people who also use the same platform. So being able to make those connections and being able to ask questions and piggyback off of those people who know what they're doing. I'm still pretty new to it. That's really helpful. I've also been working with the Collects guys pretty much all year at this point, and I really like them. And Collects and Card Dealer Pro are sister companies. So it's nice that I already have that connection as well, and I know that if I ever have any type of issue with it, I can contact them directly, and they can help me with it. I was actually on a call with them last night because I was running into the part where when I was uploading cards, they were uploading backwards, and where they were uploading backwards, it was having trouble recognizing the card because the front was the back and the back was the front. So I actually jumped on a call with them last night, and they helped me fix that. It was a scanner setting issue that I had, and he was like, "Hey, yeah, just change the scanner to this," and then within 5 minutes, they had it fixed for me.
Okay, so that's nice, and I know that a lot of people, I have not done a ton on Collects, but I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about using it more and more as a marketplace, so I'm sure that integration is very, very helpful. One of the most common things that I've heard, though, is a complaint about, and I think that this goes across the different companies, is the AI scanning is amazing, except when it comes to recognizing different parallels, and then it can be a little hit or miss that, like, if you upload a refractor versus a prism refractor versus a, purple versus a magenta versus a fuchsia, how do you feel like the hit rate is on parallels?
It's like for me right now, it's 50-50, but also I have a feeling that it's probably going to help a little bit now that the orientation when I upload them helps a little bit.
Yeah.
I ran a test batch last night after I fixed my scanner settings, and it actually helped quite a bit.
Okay.
But the good thing about it is that even though it doesn't always recognize the parallel, more often than not, it does recognize what the base card of that parallel would be. So it'll pop up the base card, and then you can just click the little drop-down menu, and it has all the parallels right there with it.
So it's easy to fix.
Yeah. So if I listed this Jung Hoo Lee this is just a chrome base. But if it was a Ray Wave or an X Fractor or something like that, it would recognize the Jung-Hoo Lee, and then I could just click the drop down menu and pick the correct parallel with it.
Okay, so room to improve in terms of its auto recognition, but at least from a like lift perspective, fixing the mistake is not difficult. Which is nice.
and they recognize that it's been a common pain point, and they're working on fixing that as well. One thing that he mentioned to me yesterday on the call, because I asked about it, they actually just released something. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago, to where like when you're making your batch, you can put in, if you do like a stack of orange laser prisms. You can put in, hey, this is 2024 Prism. Everything in here is going to be an orange laser. So that way it knows when you're scanning it that everything in there is going to be an orange laser. So then at that point, it just has to recognize the name. That's something that they've integrated within the past couple of days, to where if you just wanted to go in there and do one specific type of parallel, it would recognize it a lot quicker.
Got it. That's super smart. That's definitely a good idea on their end. Now I want to transition to my last topic that I had for you, which is something that I know that all of this is in pursuit of going full-time in cards. I know that you've talked about that before, that you would like to make, selling cards and content creation a full-time job. In your mind, is there like a specific like number or point that like you need to feel safe saying like, all right, we're doing it, we're taking the jump?
It really just depends on what I can pay myself.
Yep.
And that varies from month to month, because I might not be able to do as many Whatnot shows as I want to month, or heaven forbid, TikTok Creator Rewards Program decides that they don't want to pay people for a couple of months. That's been rough the past couple of months. But where it all varies, I'll use this for example. Last year I paid myself about $30,000.
Yep.
I would like to at least double that to feel semi-comfortable. But realistically, I would like to get more in the 80 to 90,000 of being able to pay myself doing that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'd like to be.
Yeah, no, I feel that. In a little preview for our audience here, over the holiday break, we're going to have a very fun episode. Mrs. Clever Cuban is going to be coming on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about the origins of Clever Cuban Cards and kind of making the jump to doing this full time on my end. But a little preview of that conversation is like, for us, one of the big conversations that we basically had was, she said, listen, you can quit your job, but you need to prove that you can basically completely replace your income. And so for me, I was working corporate America, and I said, okay, so I've got, I made $90,000, so that's what I need to be able to pay myself. Yeah. And it's tough because it's this ultimate circular problem of, and I know you're sitting here going through this, of I have a full-time job, so it's difficult to be able to put in the time that's necessary to actually do this. I look at it on paper and I say, okay, I think that I can do this. I think that it's there. If I could put full-time hours in, I think that I can make it happen. But you can't put full-time hours in, so you're not able to do that, but you're not able to do that because you have the full-time job. And it's just this, it's a really difficult thing. And, I was lucky enough that, we had not had our daughter yet. And, it was just the two of us. And so, I was able to take a 6-month period of basically, I'm effectively working 2 full-time jobs, and luckily I work from home and I had some flexibility in my corporate America job, but still, it was a lot. So I totally understand that, and it sounds like you have a very, very similar goal. What do you think right now, outside of, the fact that you have to work another job, what challenges do you feel like you're facing that are holding you back from, optimizing and unlocking those profits to enable you to make this jump?
Yeah, that like you said, the number one bottleneck is the time constraint.
Yep.
And the time constraint causes other issues too, besides the fact that I just don't have the time to work on it.
Yeah.
Not having that time leads to not being able to source like I want to source. In a perfect world, I'm coming down to Lighthouse every 2 weeks, and I'm spending $400 or $500 on singles, but in reality, I might make it to one show a month. Yeah. And that's what makes it hard. So that's why I've kind of been trying to look for the lots and stuff. But even sometimes when I get those lots in, it's not all great stuff. So that's kind of a little bit of a bottleneck too. So sourcing quality inventory along with the bottleneck of time is really what's holding me back right now.
Yeah. It's tough because on paper you look at it and like I looked at it and it was like, all right, like you need to lock in, which like is true, but it's much, much, much easier said than done when it comes to like locking in and just like putting all of your time to it, because believe it or not, there are things in the world that are more important than cards and that take our, attention, whether or not you prefer it over cards or just like it needs to happen. Like you got to pay the bills. So I totally feel that. One of the questions that I'm working through right now myself, and you mentioned the TikTok Creator Awards Fund. I know that you sell cards. One thing that I feel like is this ultimate debate on my end is like what your revenue split looks like. Like for me right now, if I look at my year to date in terms of, where I'm bringing in money, about 85% of my revenue that I make for my business is literally from selling cards. Now, that's my profit driver. That's where I make my money realistically. I would like that personally to be more split. I'd like what I like to the point of there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much that you can do. What I really like about the content side and what I like about, doing this podcast and all this and that is that content, I think, scales much better and much more easily than cards do. If you want to make more money selling cards, you either A, need to get way better deals, which is much easier said than done, or B, you just need to sell more cards. At which point, then that's going to take more time. Content, we're making this podcast. Right now, I don't make a ton of money from this podcast because we've just basically got Arena Club as the sole sponsor of the show, which, by the way, go grab yourself a slab pack. Use code SCN to get 20% off your first slab pack. But we've got Arena Club as a sponsor on the podcast, which is great. But if I get another sponsor and then another sponsor, that scales. I'm still making the same podcast. Yeah, maybe I have to do a little ad read in the middle or make a little piece of content every now and then. But content scales. So for me, I'm hoping to see more of a like 70-30, 60-40 split in terms of like, I know my majority is still going to be from selling cards, but I'd like to make more and have a higher floor and foundation from content. Have you thought about what that split would look like ideally in your mind?
Right now, for me, I make a lot more money making videos than I do actually selling cards. On another podcast I was on before, when I started doing this, I was a guy that was selling cards and I would make videos, and now I'm a guy that makes videos and sells cards. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like right now. So right now, the bigger driver for me is content. I would like to scale my card stuff a lot more, but again, that goes with being able to have stuff in stock and being able to run a show. So I do more with the content right now. And like, if I can't do anything with cards, I'm at least going to make a video, at the very worst on a daily basis. I work in sports, so my schedule fluctuates all over the place. So if I can't work on cards, I'm at least going to make a video. And sometimes I don't get that video out until 10:30 at night. So, that's what I kind of try to focus on right now. But yeah, right now it's probably, like I said, I paid myself about $30,000 last year, and 20 of that was from TikTok. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, no, it's the beauty of content to that point is you can make content whenever, and you can post it when it's right. Like I have videos that I have filmed months ago that I just haven't gotten around to posting onto YouTube yet, but I have them in the chamber for when I'm like, okay, like, it's a lull period. I, don't have something made, or I didn't have time, or I've got a cold, or the baby has a cold, etc., that I can just have something to post. It's a busy week. I've got more videos than probably I should be posting this week that will be going up this week, but that's the beauty with content. Right now, for me and my business, my ideal scenario is that content pays my bills, and then pays my salary, and then selling cards and the profits that I make off of that is just gravy. And I'm about halfway there right now, roughly. I'd like to be a little less than halfway, so working on trying to make that happen in 2026. But
yeah, I have a very, very similar feel to it. Like right now, the cards pay for the card business, and then what I make off content goes into savings, and I use that for taxes at the end of the year, and then whatever's left is what I end up paying myself. So that's kind of how I've been working on it right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, one thing that I know from having done this for a little over a year at this point is, there's a lot of fun that comes with being full-time. There's also a lot of like clerical, logistical crap that just like is not what gets me out of bed every day in the morning.
Yeah.
What aspect of being self-employed do you feel like you are least looking forward to when you eventually make the jump?
I feel like this could kind of be a double-edged sword, but the fear of knowing if I fail, it could turn out to be bad. So like, I think I've heard you say before, you're a fellow ADHDer. Sometimes I thrive better in chaos and with pressure, and then when stuff gets easy, I get a little bit lax.
Yeah.
So I typically work better in chaos, and sometimes I feel like that's what I need, and I'll make the argument that's why I need to do this. But then other times, other people are like, oh, you just never know. You could fail. But I think that's the scariest part about it. But a lot of people think the stuff that I do now is not sexy. So I mean, being able to do it on a bigger scale, I think it is. So being able to put more time into it because I love doing it, that seems more fun to me. But that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with that, what I would say, because like I've definitely had that question and doubt, just a little piece of like perspective / advice is also like on two sides. Have faith in yourself in two different ways. One, have faith in yourself that you'll make it work. Mm-hmm. But also two, you are a employable individual. You have a job right now. If you go and you do it and it doesn't work out, okay. Like, I would bet you that you'd be able to go find another job. You will make it work one way or the other. It might not be the ideal way that you would like it to happen or like be your first choice. But like, I look at it and I'm like, I have a teaching degree. If all else fails, there are not enough teachers in the world. I can go get a job teaching tomorrow if I needed to.
Yeah.
I hope that I can continue to sell cards until I decide I don't want to do that anymore, until it stops being fun. But like, one, have the faith that it will work out, but also two, have faith in yourself that if it doesn't work out, you have options, which is just a good reminder and perspective, because sometimes I forget that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now to close things out, I want to leave kind of one question for you, for our listeners who maybe share a love for cards. And, I think one of the most common things that I get from people when I do my card consultations, when I talk with people who are looking to kind of start or grow a card business, is that they've ripped a bunch of stuff. When people get into the hobby, you open a bunch of boxes, and yeah, you get the occasional really cool card, but what you end up with for the most part is the 3-row, 4-row, 5-row box full of base cards and inserts and parallels, and you're just like, what the heck do I do with this? Mm-hmm. What is one tip that you would give somebody who has all of those cards that technically are worth a lot of money if you were to sell them all at their full value potential? Mm-hmm. What is one tip that you would give them to like get started on that liquidation of the stuff that maybe they don't want as a part of their long-term collection?
Start listing. That's the biggest thing was people just don't start.
Yep.
But start your eBay store, start your collects. You can cross post if you need to, and just start listing. You can start on eBay 250 free listings a month. You list 5 cards a day. If you list 5 cards a day for 30 days, that gets you right about to that 250 listings. And like I said before, it rewards you for consistency. So the more you post, the more you're going to sell and the more they're going to push you out. So what people don't realize is it adds up so quickly. It really does. And one thing that I get a little bit of gripe with that people ask a lot, they're like, why is it worth it if I'm only making $2 a card at a time or $1.50 a card at a time? Because a lot of times they'll take the payout as soon as they get it. So if you take a payout immediately for a $1.50 card, you go buy a pack of bubble gum and that $1.50 is gone. So one thing that I recommend to people is don't take your payout right away. Either do it bi-weekly or monthly. So that way you can see all that stuff add up at the end, and then you'll be really surprised as to what you get at the end of the month. Just because, like I said, in 1 week of me doing this, I sold a little over 40 or 50 cards, and it's like $180 worth of gross. I had to pay for my store and stuff, so the net wasn't all that. But like once you pay for that store subscription, that adds up after that. You can easily. I was easily doing, when I was just listing 5 cards a day by myself, I was easily netting $500 a month.
Yeah, it's the positive version of death by 1,000 cuts. That like it's all small little things, but those things add up, and it definitely does. So
yeah, I like to tell people too, like if you are working and you go out and you eat lunch every day and you spend $10 at lunch or $15 at lunch, and you do that every day, and then you look at the end of the month and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent $500 or $600 on lunch this month. This is like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
If you're selling $10 or $15 worth of cards every day, all of a sudden you've made $600 instead of spending $600. So that's kind of what I tell people too.
Yeah. It's great perspective. So thanks for coming on the show today, Alex. Once again, give people if they forgot from the beginning or they didn't go follow you, then where can they find you?
You can find me on TikTok is my main source, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all at BiggzyRips. I'm on Facebook too, not posting as much on Facebook right now, but TikTok, YouTube, Instagram are my 3 main ones. I typically do big giveaways when I hit milestone followers. So we just did a 30K giveaway on TikTok. Once we hit 10K on Instagram, I'll do a big giveaway there. And then when we hit 1,000 on YouTube, I'll do a giveaway there as well. So be sure to go check it out.
So go follow BiggzyRips. Thanks again for stopping on the show. We'll have to have you on sometime in the future.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks again to Alex for coming on the show. Really, really great. Loved having the conversation about low-end cards. I love low-end cards. I know he loves low-end cards. And I know a lot of you guys love low-end cards. I want to reiterate, though, and I know that I said at the beginning of the episode, if we are going to talk the talk, we need to walk the walk. Make sure that you are willing to buy raw cards, to pay somewhat of a premium for other slabs, because we need to make sure that the hobby stays alive. And I think a lot of the high-end market doesn't look so highly on the low-end people, who are more than likely the collectors who are keeping a lot of the foundation of the hobby going. And I think that some of that foundation is also based in people being able to play the game and flip and make some profit and this and that. And PSA getting more expensive, slower, makes it harder. So let's try and do this. The other thing that I want to talk about and I want to announce is I've been getting some questions about the new collector challenge. If you guys are familiar with my content over on YouTube, at the start of the year, we did something called the new collector challenge, where I went out and I said, okay, we're wiping the slate clean. I am a new collector. I have no cards. I have $100 in my pocket. Let's see what we can do in the year of 2025. Flipping cards, playing this game, etc. Now, with it being the new collector challenge, the one rule that we had, because I got this feedback in 2024 when I tried to do this challenge, was, well, you can't utilize your name and your brand to sell these cards. So that meant that I couldn't sell those cards during my live streams over on Whatnot. That meant that I couldn't sell them on my personal eBay page. I had to sell them on a separate eBay page. And it's been a while since we've had an update, and I think that the update is that it's not sustainable for me to have to effectively run a completely separate business where I'm having to list the cards in a place where I don't normally sell my cards, or I'm having to completely track it separately. It just was not going how I wanted it to go. I still want to do a series, and I'm announcing it today. You'll get to see that starting in 2026. But announcing today that we're going to do a new series and a new challenge in 2026 that we're going to be calling Bin to Binder. And the idea is that we're going to be going to dollar bins, value bins, things like that. And we are going to build a PC binder throughout the year. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the budget each month of a blaster box. So we're going to have $35 a month. That comes out to $400 and something a year. We're going to have $35 a month that we can use to either A, just buy cool cards. If I find a cool card in a dollar box that I want for, the collection, great, we buy that. Or B, buy cards that we feel like are good values. We can flip them. I will flip them myself. So some of those might go on eBay. Some of those might go onto my Whatnot page. I will keep track of those, and that will be a part of the content that we will create. But We will flip those cards and then use those profits to be able to go buy more cool cards for the binder. We're actually going to be creating 2 binders. I'm going to be creating 1 binder for myself, and then I'm going to be creating 1 smaller binder that is going to be a giveaway for the end of the year. So we're going to build a PC binder for somebody that will give away. You guys have to subscribe, follow along, all this and that. So more information coming on that, but wanted to announce that we're still going to be doing some sort of challenge. I think it'll be fun. We will track each individual card and kind of keep a spreadsheet of that all. Want to track, okay, we're going to put $400-ish into it for the year. How much are we able to then have in value of this collection of this binder going into, 2027? And when the year closes out, you guys will have to follow along and see. So I think it should be fun. I hope you guys like that as an idea. I think it's my way of continuing to show that you can make money and build a really, really cool collection using the hobby to fund the hobby, but in a more hopefully sustainable way for me and the way that my card business works. So hopefully you guys are good with that. I'm excited for it. I hope you are as well. Thanks for checking out this week's episode. Next week should be a good one. I think we're going to be having a preview of 2026 MLB. We're going to be talking about some best buys for the offseason because I think that we're in the period right now where you want to be making some of those investments before things really start to spike as we get closer to the start of the new year. So make sure to check that out. I think that'll be dropping on Christmas Day. So listen to it when you can, but should be a lot of fun. Thanks for checking out this week's episode. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.